Okay. Hi, I'm Liz Canan, and I'm a mom to Catherine and our son Will, who had a brain tumor for 8.5 years and passed away in October of 2012. And we'll get to his story in a moment.
And I'm Tom Canan, and of course I'm father for Catherine and Will.
Well, great.
So Will was just 6 years old when he was diagnosed with a brain tumor. And about 6 weeks leading up to that, we had taken him in to the pediatrician a number of times for things like low-grade fever, extreme fatigue, and they were doing all kinds of blood work and checking, I think trying to rule out different things. And then he would rebound and go back to kindergarten and do a little bit better. And of course, as parents, you're not thinking something like the worst, like a brain tumor or a cancer diagnosis. Although being that I work in healthcare, I was wondering if they were trying to rule out things like leukemia with all the different blood work that they were doing. But again, things kept coming back normal. And so as time went on, he started to have more problems with coordination, walking. He'd take a corner around a wall and would bump into it. And, initially you think, well, he's 6, he's in a hurry, and that's just a normal kind of a thing. But then the teachers at St. Francis, where the kids went to school, the kindergarten teachers kept saying, something isn't quite right, and encouraged us to keep taking him into the doctor. And one day, I'll never forget, the teacher sent home an art project, and it was a piece of paper, and they cut strips of paper and they would weave a pattern and cut shapes out and things to make this pattern. And, he wasn't really able to do that, and it was all misaligned and things. And that wasn't like him, because he was very, he'd be very focused on his things, and he was kind of a perfectionist in projects that he did. So that was concerning. And then I had him scheduled to go back in on a Monday of a following week, and I had him in Sunday school one day, and he climbed under the table because the noise and the stimulation was just too much for him. And he was a very social boy and loved to be around his friends and all. And at that point, that was a Sunday, and I called the doctor and I said, something is terribly wrong. And we took him to the emergency room right after that, and they did a CAT scan, and they knew right away. And I knew at that point that something was terribly wrong. So anyway, that started an 8.5-year journey. And he had a 8.5-hour resection the following day, because we didn't have time to really think about this and consider other options if that was something we wanted to do, because the tumor was pressing on his, it was blocking the cerebral spinal fluid flow. So it was an emergent type of thing. And anyway, he was just a warrior for 8.5 years and had multiple surgeries, and he had the maximum dose of radiation, re-radiation, multiple different chemotherapy treatments, and other kinds of experimental treatment, because his type of cancer, medulloblastoma, once you fail, if you will, the initial treatment course, there is nothing standard else developed right now. And so you have to really make it up with the doctors as you go along. And, you have to make terrible, gut-wrenching decisions about different treatment combinations and the potential side effects and what's going to give him, the best potential chance. And so that's certainly one of the reasons why Tom and I are involved with Brains Together for a Cure. Is our effort, being part of the board, is to help fund research to find better treatments and ultimately cures for this terrible disease, and especially in kids. There is such paltry research funding that goes to pediatric cancers right now nationally, and if we can make a little bit of a difference in that could help other kids that have Will's type of tumor or other kinds of brain tumors, we're all in. Do you want to say some other things maybe about the journey?
I don't know, is this the right time, or
Yeah, there is.
you get emotional every time?
Oh, you're gonna make me cry, so that's okay.
He was a warrior. He put up with things that I thought no human being should ever have to go through. And he didn't complain. And he inspired us all. How he handled it with such grace and compassion.
And he had a sense of humor that never stopped. And I think because of that, and just he loved people, and he could talk to anybody, any stranger that he met. And people, immediately were drawn to him, and all of the caregivers in his team, they got attached to him, whether they would admit that or not, just because of who he was and because of those traits that he had. I think in terms of our journey, you do always try to maintain hope. Even if you're in the midst of having to make up a new treatment plan, you think maybe this will be the one that will help or cure or buy more time, high quality time for our child. Of course, I think we were hopeful after he finished that full year of treatment initially, all 3 or so different kinds of chemotherapy, radiation. You think, okay, we've done this, he's done this, we're going to be able to move forward now with our life post-cancer. And then I think another time that I felt renewed hope, and this was well into the journey, probably year 6 or so, or 7. So they tried this new cocktail of various drugs, and it was right before Thanksgiving, and we'd had a scan, and an MRI, and I remember that so vividly. They came into the room and they said, we can't believe this. We've double checked it to make sure it was Will's scan.
After 5 years of bad news.
Yeah,
Really?
we've seen the tumors are shrinking and all. And so that, it was short-lived, but what a sense of jubilation and hope and thankfulness. And I remember going, and everyone that I would see that we knew, I'd stop to tell them that. I mean, we were just so elated. And the team, you could just see the doctors too. I mean, they were reserved in how they showed their joy, but they felt it too. And unfortunately, that only lasted maybe 3 months until the next scan, and the tumors mutated and figured out a way how to grow. But those were moments, I guess, of hope through the journey. I just always tried to be optimistic. I mean, you want to be strong for your child, for the siblings, for the family, and continue to to advocate and fight, because again, you never know. I mean, there may have been something on the horizon just coming, but and I guess through our work, and specifically my work through the other nonprofit that I actually founded and run, Brighter Tomorrows, you want to give hope to other families, especially those that are newer in the journey. And so you just try to balance it. I don't know if I have a great answer on the hope thing, but those would be a couple of the highlights through our journey where we found it. I don't know what your thought
I guess
is.
the other thing I was going to say is, especially, deep into Will's treatment course, we'd find that there was one more drug. We didn't have an array of 3 or 4 drugs to choose from, but we'd have one more drug in the arsenal, and we'd give him that drug, and he'd have some progress for a period of time. And you'd have another scan, and then it would hit you like freight train because we'd lost ground. And it turns out that because research continued to, be done in the interim, there was one more drug. And so it gave us hope for, and that cycle kept repeating itself. And then he would have some progress on that drug and another bad scan, and then there'd be one more drug.
But again, these drugs, they've all been tested only on adults.
Right.
And again, that's why it is so important, and why we are part of Brains Together for a Cure, that we have to find other treatments and other cure things to try, and we need to try them, have them available for kids. And while I would agree, we would get some of that hope. It was such a roller coaster. I mean, it was a roller coaster for 8.5 years, and you don't realize at the time the toll that it takes on everyone. I mean, it's fight or flight syndrome for 8.5 years. And even now, I think I look back, or I look at health issues or mental health issues that we may have, or I may feel personally inside that I struggle with. And it's all, it's all related to that. It just continues to take its toll in different ways that you don't even know or have any idea when you're going through the journey, but you're just so focused on saving your child and surviving and helping to support if you have other children and your partner. And
the other thing I was going to say that I think everyone's in agreement there isn't enough progress on is all of the collateral damage that all of these treatments do. I mean, Will's sight was affected because the x-rays were giving him cataracts, and his hearing was affected by the chemo, and so he lost some of the upper ranges of his hearing, and cognitive processing ability was affected. So he was having difficulty in school where a few years earlier he wasn't having that kind of difficulty. So
the short-term memory loss, and of course as we went on, it was just excruciatingly painful to see that. And we're not alone when we talk to other families whose kids have had radiation to the brain. And I know that Mayo is looking at some research, and particularly I think there is a proposal right now that Brains Together for a Cure is looking at, that is focused on the cognitive impact of these terrible, harsh treatments, and particularly in kids. And again, that is why we're so passionate about BTFC and the work that's being done, because it's those kinds of things that continue to give us some hope.
Yeah, move one step.
I would say a couple of things. Certainly what we've been talking about, the research, trying to help fund novel research at Mayo Clinic here in our own community, to find other ways to treat brain cancer, and which may ultimately, hopefully, lead us to cures. I think the other thing is just the friendship and the support that comes with this incredible organization and the incredible people that founded it and that are a part of it. You know, we've been in it a long time, and sadly, we've seen our friends lose their loved ones and people that we loved too. But yet our bonds remain strong and that connection remains strong. And we haven't traditionally gone to the support group that Brains Together for a Cure offers because it's really been geared more toward adults. But I think it's just so incredible, the physician involvement, and particularly Dr. That he's there almost every month to help facilitate that. And that is very unique if you look across the country at other support groups. And just that demonstrates just the level of commitment and compassion that people have for this organization that are involved in it. So those are some of the things that are really important to me and make it a really special organization to be a part of.
Yeah, I would echo that. I guess I would just say that there's no substitute for people that have walked in your shoes. You don't have to explain what's going on to them. They get it.
And again, that goes well beyond when you're in the fight, and then beyond when you've experienced the death of a child or a loved one or family member. Those bonds remain, and those people understand it and help connect and support you and each other. Yeah. And you know, Will loved the annual events in October too, because he loved seeing all the different people that he knew from the organization and that knew him, and well as meeting new people. And a good friend of ours, Marcia Fritzmeyer, used to have a service dog, facility-based service dog named Jack, and he was a miniature pinscher, and he was affectionately named Dr. Jack, and he was well known at Mayo, throughout Mayo. In fact, Allison, your mom will know him because his home was in PM&R where Marcia worked. But Will would, walk him on the leash at Brains Together for a Cure's events and help sell Marcia's book about Dr. Jack that Mayo partnered with her on and did all the illustrations. And he was part, I'll never forget, we would always do a balloon launch at the beginning of the race when we were all in person. And Will and Catherine, his sister, and Sue Ruska, I have this wonderful picture of them. They were holding this big collection of balloons, and they were getting ready to let them go free. And it was just things like that he really enjoyed being a part of. And of course, friends and family came out to that event and would travel here to be part of it too. And we had just an incredible community of people that were by our side every step of the way. And again, that's what helps sustain you and keep you going in good times and in bad, to see those people show up. Probably like the food, the snacks and everything that came during and after it.
Boy,
yeah. I think for me, what is a really beautiful part of the event and very emotional is the tribute wall with all of the photos of people that are not only still surviving, but that we've lost. I mean, it brings you hope, but there's also an element of extreme sadness as well. And, we know a fair number of people on the tribute wall.
And for me, I guess I'm a runner, so I would run in the event, and then they have the photos, many of which are already on the tribute wall, but spaced out on the course. And so I know those people.
That's really cool.
As I was running, yeah. It's quite an impact. is you cover the course to hit all of those people by the end. So.
I would just probably say thank you to people that have participated, continue to participate. And also I would ask people to consider getting involved in the future and also being informed. There's the cat.
Yeah.
The cat that makes its
Morning
appearance
meeting.
on our
Morning
Zoom
meeting.
meeting. But also to really seriously be informed, learn more about brain tumors and the terrible effects that it can cause on the individual and for the families. And again, the need for continued and more funding for research, because we just have to find better treatments and ultimately cures. I want cures, but I just focus more right now on better treatments that can minimize some of the terrible side effects and long-term effects in people.
Right, I'd echo that. And, you know, you never know when cancer is going to strike your family. It's just a bolt of lightning out of the blue. And it just seems like cancer is bad enough, but when it's a brain tumor and all of the, you know, you've got all the normal cancer effects, but then you've got all of the cognitive impacts that it's just a double whammy. And so that plus the lack of pediatric cancer research or brain tumor options, it's just a compelling reason for me to stay involved and to reach out to ask other people to stay involved, because you never know when it's going to strike your family, and you're going to need this organization to help support you while you walk that journey.
And again, when that's an interesting way to look at it, and the way I think about that too is if you can make it more of a chronic illness, that's assuming that you've mitigated many of these terrible cognitive effects and all to where people can still lead very high functioning, independent, high quality lives.
Yeah, manageable.